Hey there, you finally decided to begin the process of applying for a master's program. Or maybe you're currently in the middle of applying for one. First of all, congratulations. It's a huge step to take in life. Trust me, I've been there. But just like with every other major decision in life that you have to make, it is important to know the key considerations that you need to take into account to ensure that you, yes, you, are choosing the right master's program. Well, you're in luck. In this video, I'm going to tell you exactly that. Let's get started.
Why? 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 Why?
We start off with why. Simply ask yourself, why do you want to pursue a master's program? There are so many reasons to choose a master's program. Maybe you finished your bachelor's degree and want to specialize in a specific field. Or you enjoy working in your current field and want to expand your knowledge. In some cases, a master's degree is a requirement for application to certain roles. Or maybe you want to go into the world of academia and become a professor. After identifying your why, another important question you may need to ask yourself is if there are any other alternatives to you doing a master's program. Hear me out for a second. I know you clicked on this particular video so that you know what to look out for when you're choosing a master's program. But a master's program is not the only form of higher learning available. For example, you could do a master's in project management at a university, or alternatively, become a project management professional by completing the internationally recognized program at the Project Management Institute. By the way, I am not in any way endorsing this particular program, nor am I saying that the two programs are equivalent to each other. I'm just using them as an example to encourage you to consider other possible alternatives to doing a master's program. Your why, reason, or motivation for doing a master's program is crucial for you to first identify, as I believe it will guide you in your decision making for the next 8 upcoming considerations. In simple terms, what kind of master's program would you like to do? Here's a quick test. How many types of master's programs can you think of? I'll wait. Well, on second thought, you don't have to. Here's a list of 17. Yes, 17 types of master's programs. These are the different types of master's programs that I came across as I was doing research for this video. I didn't even know 80% of these existed when I was applying for my master's. Well, at least now you do. Another important factor to consider is whether you want to do it part-time or full-time. Part-time learning usually tends to take twice as long or even 3 times as long for one to complete the master's program as compared to full-time learning. With over 17 different types of master's programs to choose from, make sure you do your own research to find the one master's program best suited for your why. The third point in my list is cost. The cost of, well, everything in general is becoming more expensive with every passing year due to inflation. Cost can be divided into 2 major categories. The first category is the cost of tuition. In other words, school fees, which is usually fixed by the institution where you're undertaking your master's program. The second category is the cost of living, which is basically your monthly student expenses like rent, food, and other things that you need to survive as you do your master's program. This is usually slightly flexible And by that I mean you can sort of control how much you spend as an individual. There are a couple of ways of funding your master's program. The first way of funding your master's program is through scholarships from institutions. It's also important to note that scholarships are usually very competitive, as so many students usually apply for the limited number of spots, and also some of these scholarships usually come with conditions that you have to fulfill either during or after your master's program is completed. For example, after completion of the master's program, an institution may require you to come back to your home country and work for a few years, and if you choose not to, you may be required to pay back the full cost of the scholarship. So it's important to be fully aware of every contract that you get into with any institution. The second way of funding your master's program is what I usually refer to as self-funding. This is where you pay for yourself the entire cost of studying either through loans, savings, or family wealth. The third way of funding your master's program is through work sponsorship. This is a special case where the company that you work for pays for the cost of the program, and in return, there is a predetermined agreement between you and your employer, such as working for the company for a fixed number of years post graduation, after which you are free to leave and look for other places to gain employment. I know the topic of money is usually a very sensitive issue, but it's not all doom and gloom in my opinion. I've got some good news for you. There is a sort of middle ground, a workaround, an in between that may make pursuing your master's slightly cheaper. It is basically where you find a master's program in a public university in a country that does not charge tuition fees. That way, your cost of doing a master's program decreases by almost 50%. Here is a list of countries that offer free education for certain nationalities and or certain degrees. When trying to figure out where you will spend the next 12 to 24 months of your life as you do your master's program, you'll need to consider 4 key aspects: institution, location, weather, and accommodation. These are very important factors. I'll start off with institution. Every year, universities are ranked and are constantly competing to be called the best. But ranking is not everything when it comes to choosing a good university or a good master's program. Some factors to look out for when choosing an institution include accreditation of the master's program that you're going to do. For example, in my home country, the Engineers Board of Kenya has a list of approved institutions whose engineering programs have been accredited, meaning only after graduating from any of these approved institutions can one legally register as a graduate engineer in Kenya. The next factor is the actual faculty of the master's program. This is mainly about the teaching staff. This includes the professors, the lecturers, guest speakers, and any individual who comes to teach in the program. I personally believe it is important to understand the level of qualification of the staff members of the faculty where your master's program will be done. Next up, facilities. The quality of the facilities is an important factor to consider when choosing your master's program, especially if you're planning to do a Master of Science or Engineering or any other STEM related program. The institution should have appropriate facilities such as lecture rooms, computer labs, testing labs, and libraries. Basically, all the facilities that you would expect to use as you pursue your master's program. A key factor that people tend to overlook is alumni testimonials. The best way to get an idea of how the program is by talking to people who have actually completed the program. An easy way to do this is through the platform LinkedIn. Type in the name of your school and the name of your program that you want to do. If you are lucky, you'll get a list of people who have completed the particular program that you want to pursue. The next step is to message some of these alumni via LinkedIn. Ask them for their honest opinion of the program and whether they would recommend it to you or not. The key is that you message as many people as possible to get as much feedback as possible. That way you can easily make your decision because you have information. Next, we move on to location. It's important to really think about the physical location of your master's program. There are two general areas where you can choose to do your master's program: an urban area or a semi-urban, semi-rural area. And each has its own set of advantages and disadvantages. Urban areas, for example, Munich or London, tend to have a lot more people and are usually a lot more lively. There tends to be more fun activities outside school to do, like visiting parks, museum, and even going to clubs. But on the flip side, there is also the stress of dealing with traffic jams, pollution, overcrowding in certain places during certain times. Semi-urban areas, on the other hand, tend to be smaller and more ideal when it comes to studying for students. But to be honest, it is way more boring as it has less activities to do outside of school. An important thing to note is that urban areas tend to be very, very expensive to live in when compared to semi-urban areas. Thus, when choosing a program, the location needs to be taken into serious consideration, especially as it affects your budget. Another important factor about location choice is the weather. The weather in some parts of the world is really extreme. So, for example, in Munich, when it's cold, it's usually between 5 and -5 degrees Celsius. But when it's warm, it can even go as high as 35 degrees during the summer. This particularly affects international students from tropical areas like me who have never experienced severe winter periods before. And lastly is the issue of accommodation. It can be extremely difficult to find affordable accommodation as a student, especially in urban areas, where there is a constantly increasing population while the number of available living spaces or houses remains the same in these urban areas. This leads to more competition for the same number of houses, and thus increase in rent prices ends up taking place. A situation like this eventually makes pursuing a master's program in a bigger city more expensive than doing the same kind of master's program in a smaller city. Let me know in the comments section below if you guys want a detailed video on the process of applying for accommodation in big cities like Munich. While it is possible to do a master's program that is outside the scope of your bachelor's, it is highly advised not to do so. There is nothing more frustrating than having to constantly learn complex new content at a higher education level just in order to pass exams. Try to apply for programs that you qualify for. It's literally as simple as that. Most master's programs have a website that clearly states all the requirements needed in order to qualify to apply for the program. If you are not sure about a particular requirement, look for the email of the faculty or the department your program is under and ask. Personally, I believe there is no need to apply for programs that you do not meet the requirements for. This is because universities usually have strict admission criteria, and if you choose to apply for a program that you don't qualify for, there is a very high possibility that you will not be selected. Also, another important factor to note is that these universities usually charge admission fees, which are usually significantly high. So sometimes applying for the sake of applying is literally throwing money away. And because we're on the topic of applications, well, let's talk about it. Slots in master's programs are highly competitive and very limited, especially in the top ranking universities, in the world. The most important rule when it comes to applying for a master's program is to follow instructions as stated by the institution on their website. This is because assessment of application and selection of candidates is done based on a certain criteria or standards set by the school or the institution. In simple words, if you don't follow instructions, you don't get a place in the master's program. For example, if you're told to write a motivation letter of 2 pages and less than 1,000 words stating exactly why you think you should be allowed to study at the university, do exactly that. No need to do more or less than what you are required to do. I am currently in the process of making a video explaining how to properly draft documents required for master's programs such as the motivation letter. This video will give tips and tricks that I personally used to write my own motivation letter that got me into the Technical University of Munich. If that doesn't deserve a like and a sub to the channel, I don't know what will. Next up, the teaching style. The teaching style of an institution is very important. You need to find a program that has a good balance of lectures, Q&A sessions, field trips, practicals, and guest lectures. It usually tends to get quite boring when you do the same thing over and over again throughout the semester. Also, do research on your professors. Check what they have accomplished in the field that they are teaching you in. You may be surprised to find out that some of your professors or lecturers are well-respected individuals in your field. Once you have this information, it becomes much easier when choosing your mentors. These people will guide you not only during your master's program, but also after you graduate. Assessment. Let's be honest, no one really likes exams. It's the most stressful part of the semester, but literally the most important. Different master's programs have different ways of assessment. Some conduct physical closed book exams, others have online exams and assignments, others have a combination of oral presentations and term papers or reports. So for example, in my master's program, a unit is either assessed by means of a closed book exam or a combination of a presentation and a report based on an assigned topic. In general, look for a program that suits your preferred style of examination, as there is no need for applying for a program that mainly tests through closed book exams, but you know yourself and you know that you're better at writing reports and giving presentations. And finally, my last point is career path. Choose a master's program that falls in line with your current, your near future, and your distant future life goals. Choosing to do a master's program is a huge and life-changing choice as it affects you physically, mentally, emotionally, and financially. So it has to be a decision that will help you in your future. This again goes with my first point of identifying your why. You first need to understand what is motivating the choice to pursue a master's program, as it will eventually affect the career path that you want to take. I'm sure you're asking yourself, how do I know that a particular master's program is right for my career? A simple way to know is to first observe those who are more senior than you in the field that you are in, and try to answer the following questions. Have they done the same or a similar master's program to the one you want to do? From your personal observation, does it look as if the master's program that they did has been beneficial to them in their career? Then go the extra mile and ask them this exact question and make sure you get feedback on it. And finally, ask them whether they would recommend you to do the same program, or are there any alternative courses that they would rather recommend for you to do. If you have made it this far into the video, hopefully some of the points mentioned will help guide you to make a better decision when choosing your master's program. In case I have missed any important points, or you have any questions or requests that you would like to get answers to, or any feedback in general, please let me know in the comment section down below. Otherwise, I wish you success in your search for a master's program and see you in the next video. Bye bye. Now, hear me out. Now, hear me out for a second.